All right, today we're going to dive into the mind of someone truly fascinating, a thinker whose life story is every bit as remarkable as his ideas. We're talking about Thomas Sowell.
And when I say remarkable, I mean this guy wrote over 50 books. Just think about that for a second. On economics, history, social policy, you name it. For more than half a century, he's been at the very center of some of the biggest debates, which means he's incredibly influential, but also really, really controversial.
So you have to ask, right? What makes a mind like that tick? How does someone become Thomas Sowell? That's what we're going to unpack today, the story and the experiences behind the ideas.
To get started, you really have to grasp the one thing that runs through his entire life's work. It all kind of boils down to a single, powerful word. And that word is Maverick. You know, an independent, an unorthodox thinker. And for Sowell, this isn't just some cool label. It's his entire intellectual DNA. He's the kind of person who just refuses to go along with the crowd. For him, the data, his own analysis, that always comes first, way before popular opinion or any kind of ideology. And this quote, this is pure Sowell. It's sharp, it's definitely provocative, and it's designed to make you stop and go, wait, what? He's showing how the very same idea can get you labeled a radical, then a liberal, then a racist, all depending on the decade. It's a classic Maverick move, pointing out how the goalposts are always shifting. So where does that independent streak even come from? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go way back to the very beginning of his life, which was basically a tale of two completely different worlds. I mean, the contrast is just staggering. He was born into deep poverty in the Jim Crow South, a place so segregated that he later said white people were almost hypothetical to him. Can you imagine? Then, bam! At 9 years old, he moves to Harlem. The change was so massive, he called it an immigrant experience. It was like moving to a whole new country with a new language, new rules, and yeah, new dangers, but also new opportunities. And let me tell you, his path was anything but a straight line. He found the public library, total game changer. But he also dropped out of one of the best high schools in the country at just 16 and left home. At one point, he was living on literally 15 cents a day. Then he joins the Marines during the Korean War. And somehow, after all that, he works his way into Harvard and graduates with high honors. I mean, if that journey doesn't forge an insane amount of self-reliance, I don't know what does. So you have this incredibly tough, completely self-made guy, and he's looking for a way to make sense of the world he's seen. And for a solid decade, the framework that seemed to fit was Marxism. And you know, when you think about his background, the poverty, the inequality, it's really not that surprising. He said himself that Marxism just seemed to explain so much of the world he had lived through. For more than 10 years, he was a committed Marxist, a true believer. But then came the big turning point. It happened during a summer internship with the U.S. government. His assignment was to study the impact of minimum wage laws in Puerto Rico. Now, his theory, as a Marxist, was simple. Minimum wage helps the poor. But the data, the facts, told a different story. Unemployment actually went up. So he says, hey, maybe we should test this data, see what's really going on. And his government colleagues, they just looked at him with what he described as looks of horror. And that was it. That was the light bulb moment. He realized the government agency wasn't about helping people. It was about protecting itself, its budget, its power. Years later, somebody asked him what finally changed his mind about Marxism. His answer was just one word: facts. That's it. For Thomas Sowell, from that point on, the cold, hard evidence would always, always trump ideology. And this new dedication, this obsession with facts and high standards, well, it was about to define the entire next chapter of his life, his career as a professor. And boy, did it put him on a collision course with the university establishment. So picture this. He's teaching at Howard University, a famous historically Black university, and his department chair pulls him aside and basically says, look, Sowell, you're not at Harvard anymore. These kids can't handle all these complex ideas and graphs. You gotta dumb it down. Sowell's response, it was instant and it was defiant. He said, oh, yes, they can, but they can't if they have administrators like you intervening for them. And then he just adds, if you think I'm not doing my job, you can have my resignation anytime. He absolutely refused to patronize his students. For him, lowering the bar wasn't helping them. It was robbing them of the chance to succeed. And get this wasn't a one-time thing. Not at all. A pattern started to emerge. He resigned from Douglas College when they told him to grade easier. He resigned from Howard over this very battle.
He resigned from Cornell with a one-sentence letter when they went over his head. Time after time, he chose his principles over his career, no question.
So after all these years fighting in the academic trenches, Sowell finally found a place that would just let him work. An institution that gave him the total freedom to follow the facts, no compromises. And this is where he would really cement his legacy. In 1980, he joined the Hoover Institution at Stanford University, and for him, it was perfect. He later called it the most satisfying job he ever had. Why? Because he could finally step away from all the university politics and just focus 100% on what he loved: research and writing. So when you boil it all down, what's his legacy all about? Well, it really comes down to three big ideas. First, empiricism. That's just a fancy way of saying follow the facts no matter where they take you. Second, incentives and trade-offs. This is huge. For Sowell, there are no perfect solutions in the world. There are only trade-offs, and every single policy has consequences. Some you see, and some you don't. And third, human capital. The idea that what really matters for success, for any group of people, are the skills, the habits, and the experience they build for themselves. And he hammered away at these ideas with just relentless productivity. We're talking more than 50 books. It's an incredible body of work, and every single one is packed with data, driven by facts. And that really brings us to the final question, doesn't it? The question his whole life seems to ask us. In our world today, which feels like it's pulling everyone into one ideological camp or another, what's the real value of a maverick? What's the value of a mind that insists on following the facts, no matter how inconvenient or unpopular those facts might be? It's a powerful thing to think about.